Welcome back, Physics 30. So this is part B of the Unit 1C displacement and distance assignment. So we'll take a look at this last question here. It involves a little more work. If an off-road vehicle traveled 10.6 kilometers north 13 west, changed to south 99 or 29 degrees west for 8 kilometers, and then traveled 13.7 west, determine the following on loose leaf: the total distance, the resultant displacement, and the vehicle's final position. Okay, so we'll look at all three of those. The distance traveled is going to be very easy. Just simply add up all the movements. So 10.6, 8.8, 13.7. So relatively easy here. We get 33.1. Okay. The remaining part there takes a little bit of work. It's very similar to what you've already done. We're going to break down these vectors into component vectors, add up all the north movements, north-south, east-west, and then draw the final vector. So north 13 west, etc., etc. If we look at the sketch there for those. So here are the three movements, with the last one being just straight west. So 10.6 north 13 west, 8.8 south 29 west, and lastly 13.7 west. And I just called them vectors V, T, and U. Doesn't really matter what you call them. So to figure out Vx here, I'm going to have to use the sine relationship because it's the opposite side, and cosine will give me the vertical movement. So if I work that out, and again, this is pointing to the left, so it's going to be negative. Y is pointing up, so it's going to be positive. So I get negative 2.3844 for Vx plus 10.3283 for Vy. Looking at the second one, I'm going to have a negative y and a negative x, and again, the sine function will give me tx. The cos function will give me y because it's the adjacent side. If you work that all out, the x movement is negative 4.2666, and its y movement is negative 7.696. And lastly, we have this. The x movement is negative 13.7, and of course there's no y movement, so it's just simply 0. So adding up all the x movements, we have a negative 2.38, a negative 4.266, and a negative 13.7, all combining to give 20.35. And all the y movements you can see, positive 10, negative 6.7, or sorry, negative 7.6, and 0, so there's only 2 to combine there, and we get 2.6317. So this negative sign and this positive sign help us to draw or sketch what the x and y movements are. We're going in the negative direction, positive y direction. So negative x, positive y. We don't use these signs here in the calculation. We just simply use the signs to sketch the vectors. So of course a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So that's going to give me 20.5 kilometers. And then of course opposite over adjacent is tan. So 2.6317 over 20.351. And we get 7.4 degrees. So overall, the resulting displacement, so when we do that, when we figure out that resulting vector, it's really the resulting displacement or change in displacement. 20.5 kilometers west, 7.4 degrees north. Okay? And the last part of the question, what is the final position? So the position requires a movement and a reference point. We can really cop out here and say that it's the same answer as B, but we need to state a reference point. Here we'll just simply say from wherever we started. So so restating it, 20.5 kilometers west, 7.4 degrees north from the starting point. So you have to have that last part in there. Okay, so that's our assignment. We'll take a quick look at the vocab here so you can get it. So position, location of an object relative to a reference point. So here if I have 3 movements, my position is the red vector here from starting point to finish point, and it looks like it's about east 30 degrees south. So we're not concerned about how we got there, it's just that we got there, and measuring the difference. Reference point is just your starting point. So earlier I mentioned a movement 2 kilometers east of the Cornwall, so the Cornwall would be starting point. Okay, and the next page, number line, well, we know what that is. We've known what that is since grade 1. You could simply say a line that has integers on it, and including 0, of course. Displacement is the change in a position. So if this is a position, 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 if we're looking at the change in between this position and this position, that would be displacement. Equivalent displacements, mentioned that earlier too. They don't have to have the same starting points, they just have to have the same magnitude and direction. And we touched on that back in Unit 1B on one of the assignments. So same magnitude and direction, but don't have to have the same starting points. And lastly, so we looked at position, displacement, distance, total amount of movement. So I'm not concerned about the final, I'm just concerned about all the steps taken. So in this case, 2, 4, 6, so that would give me 12. Okay, so that's it. That's Unit 1C. We'll see you next time.